everyone, welcome back to the studio vlog. Happy 2021. I hope you all had a lovely holiday break. I'm just coming back from 2 weeks off, 2 very much needed weeks to relax and spend time with my kids and my family. It was the first break I took in like 2 years. And that definitely plays into what some of my thoughts are moving forward for 2021. So for those of you who are new here, my name is Veguilla-Lezan. I am the graphic designer and illustrator behind Bella and Sophia Creative Studio, and I run this here YouTube channel called the Freelance Life, where I document my journey as a small business owner, a freelancer, and essentially like a creative entrepreneur. For this first vlog of the year, my goal was to kind of go over like a 2020 recap, and then like what worked, what didn't work, and then leading into some of my hopes. And I don't want to call them goals, just because I feel like with the state of the world right now, I need to be flexible, and that's something I want to, bring moving forward into the new year. The idea of flexibility and giving myself grace. So I don't want to call them goals. I'm looking at them more as like my hopes and plans for the upcoming year. Hopefully I can achieve them, and if I can't achieve some of them, that's totally okay too, because it's kind of a crazy time still. The pandemic is still raging on, and the fact that we just got through 2020 alone is just, in my opinion, it's an accomplishment in of itself. The fact that we made it through, we're here, we're moving forward. And I want to be mindful of that. And I'm very, very thankful and grateful this past year. I made a very scary jump that I think actually ended up benefiting me when I decided to basically freelance full time and not work at an office job or work for a studio or for a nonprofit like I was before, because of the impact that the pandemic had on so many people losing their jobs. I worry that if I was still in that scenario, that could have happened, but I'm very thankful that I decided to take the leap, and I managed to do okay this past year. And I think part of that too was me really looking at, again, what worked, what didn't work, and trying to pull in multiple streams of revenue outside of just client work, because just like many other people, that was one of the big areas of my income streams that was impacted, client work, because of the fact that people weren't working, people weren't doing marketing. People didn't necessarily always need something like graphic design or branding or logos to start businesses because of the concerns they had about the impending year. So that took a huge hit. But what I want to look at again is just what worked, what didn't, my 2020 recap, and then how I'm planning and how I'm organizing, which is actually really similar to what I do every single year. I use Trello and Google Calendar to kind of map out my entire year, and then I'll go through that process. And yeah, so let's get started. When I look at the year, the fact that I did anything, honestly, on top of the stress of having to homeschool my kids, have my kids do virtual learning, figure out how to be safe in our community, the fact that I did work was just, an added benefit. So when I look at 2020, what really, really worked for me is that I built residual income. I did have clients at the very early beginning of the year, and what's interesting too is when I look at the client workload and my whole client process, and the fact that I had to basically kind of step back away from clients, and then obviously because of the pandemic I had less and less clients. It kind of geared me towards the direction of what I actually wanted, and I'm realizing more and more I don't want to work with clients on like a graphic design, branding kind of perspective. What I would like in the future is to, look at it from a branding perspective. I'm doing something on YouTube, or I'm licensing my work out and things like that. That's the kind of client work that I'm looking for. So this year I kind of had to take a step back from client work, and I think that actually ended up benefiting me. But I was able to build residual income and additional revenue streams that helped to supplement that loss. So obviously I am an adjunct professor. I teach at a university. I'm not a full-time worker. I get no benefits. I'm a contract worker. So if students don't enroll in my classes, they can last minute drop me. And that's why I have freelanced, and I've made it a point to build my own business in addition to teaching, because of the fact that it can be a very rocky slope kind of a career. So I've managed between 1 to 2 courses every term, and so that is a steady income, and I'm W-2'd even though I'm a contract worker, and I have to sign a new contract every single term. I don't know how they manage that, but they do. So in addition to teaching at the university, I also teach on Skillshare, and this by far was my game changer this year. It was a huge chunk of my monthly income, and it was amazing to see how it increased over the months exponentially. And what I found, the more classes I loaded, the more people found me in the search. The more I promoted my classes on YouTube, the more people found me in search, and that led people to actually enrolling and taking my classes. So you get over on Skillshare, and again, this is the other thing too, it's like I could potentially release my classes on my own website, but then I have to generate additional traffic. Whereas with Skillshare, you kind of already have a built-in audience on the platform, and there's millions and millions and millions of users who are looking for content that relates to, learning, e-learning, whether it's some sort of creative or craft-related item, marketing, business, stuff like that. So Skillshare, though, you only get royalties. So you get royalties for the number of minutes, like premium minutes that people watch your classes. And then you also get on top of that $10 per person that signs up through your teacher sign up link. So my referrals kind of go up and down. It depends. It really depends on the month. Certain times of the year, more people sign up. Like January is a big one, and for some reason, like spring and summer this past year, and I have a feeling that's because of everything that was going on in the world. More people were home, so more people were willing to sign up for, the subscription for Skillshare. So you get $10 for referrals. And then on top of that, like I said, you get royalties for the number of minutes watched. And I saw like an exponential increase this year. It's amazing. I'm hoping that I can maintain that consistency and hopefully double it this upcoming year. And that would make a huge, huge difference in terms of my livelihood. But what I'm making is enough to help cover a huge chunk of my bills, and that's what I really needed. So thanks to Skillshare, and thanks to those of you who found me on YouTube through Skillshare or who found me on Skillshare through YouTube. Thank you for supporting me. You allowed me to feed my family, clothe my kids, keep a roof over our heads, and for that I'm incredibly and immensely humbled and grateful. So Skillshare was my game changer this year. I also have some additional revenue streams that are much smaller though, so I find that teaching, and obviously I've taught for many years now, I'm going on my 10th year, so Skillshare kind of was like, it made sense for me to do something like that, and it was just a really easy transition for me, whereas the other revenue streams that I'm looking at when it comes to my artwork they're a little bit bumpier and shakier to try to build up, because it's something that I'm not necessarily relatively new, but new for me doing it by myself. So the additional revenue streams I had were Creative Market, which is an online digital asset website. You have to sign up and get approved. You have to apply to sell your products on their website. I sell digital products, so things that relate to digital planning, digital stickers, assets, social media, kind of like bundles. And then I launched a font this past year, and I'm hoping I'll do one more, maybe 1 or 2 more for 2021, because fonts are hard to make. So, but the fact that I learned and I was able to launch one, I thought was a really cool thing. So I have a nice variety of basically different elements and items that I can make based on my skill set as a graphic designer and as an illustrator. With Creative Market, I made some money, not a ton, but it was a nice chunk that allowed me to pay a small bill or cover my gas in my vehicle for the month. So it's not a huge amount, but in my opinion, I feel like every little bit counts, and I find that as as I become more well known on those platforms, more people are going to find me. And then what's nice is that I only have to make those elements once, and then I can sell them over and over and over again. I don't have to do anything else. So Creative Market was another revenue stream. And then Etsy, this year I saw a really big bump in terms of sales for my digital products. So basically whatever I put on Creative Market, I would also put on Etsy. So I had a combination of digital products and physical products, but they all related to stationery, productivity, and some sort of like digital illustrative media. So stickers, planner printables, washi tapes I launched this year, and then also like I did a lot of like digital planners, so like GoodNote planners. So that really worked nicely. Like I sold the most stickers, like my Chicago sticker set, because that's where I'm from. That was one of my best sellers, which I think was awesome. And then my digital planners were some of my best sellers. So stickers sold really well. Digital products sold really well. So I feel like I kind of found my niche when it comes to Etsy. And people will look at my shop and might say like, oh, you have to niche down even more. I feel like these are my skill sets. In order for me to kind of like really focus on building and continue to build that up, I think I want to continue along those lines of offering like a bit of a variety when it comes to that. Hopefully I can just continue to grow, and then anything I make from Etsy goes into the bank, or I'll reinvest back into the business for other things like supplies. So Etsy, Creative Market, and Skillshare really worked very, very, very well for me in terms of income. Etsy and Creative Market were a little, smaller beans in terms of income. But honestly, I think as I build up my brand awareness, more will come from that in the coming year. And I also think, like I said, even though I'm not niching down, but I am refocusing for this upcoming year when it comes to that, I think that might help as well. And then the other thing that worked really well was YouTube. So while I do not get paid for YouTube yet, the goal is this year that I can monetize. But I hit my 1,000 subscriber goal back in early December. So my goal was to hit it by the new year. I hit it before that. So thank you all for subscribing. I really appreciate it. I appreciate that you're here. I appreciate that you are working with me and learning alongside me, because I found that like the tutorials were really popular on YouTube. I was able to post one video a week, and then in December I did 2 videos a week for Craftmas, which was, that was a lot. That was a lot of planning. But I know for next year now I've planned ahead, so hopefully I'll be able to kind of manage it better than trying to basically fit a whole 2 months of work within 2 weeks, because I wanted to have the last 2 weeks of December off. But I managed to, maintain consistency on YouTube, and I saw growth, exponential growth because of that. And I've been on YouTube for a while. I used to run a digital magazine. That's what this channel was before I rebranded it and relaunched it. It was dedicated to the magazine and our photo shoots and the different people that we were showcasing. And you could probably still see some of the old stuff on there. It still kind of relates to some of the things that I do, but it was more from a journalistic perspective. And it took a long time to even grow to like 300, but I think that's around the point I was when I rebranded everything. And I grew like 700 plus subscribers in this past year because of, I think honestly, my consistency and kind of refocusing what I was doing with the channel and having a clear vision. So that really worked. Hopefully I will be able to be approved for monetization in the coming months. And then hopefully we'll see, it'll grow even more from here. That's what my plans are. And I found that even though I don't get paid for YouTube, it is a great way to funnel traffic into my paid things, like funneling people over to Skillshare, because I can share my class previews here, and then if someone wants to take the full class, they can check it out on Skillshare. Or sharing my products through things like Plan With Me's, or doing my studio vlogs and highlighting the products that I'm selling in my Etsy shop or in Creative Market and linking that in the description and sending people from here to there. So while I don't necessarily get paid for YouTube yet, it benefited me in terms of marketing. And that was my whole goal, is like utilizing YouTube and social media as my primary marketing tools to promote the work that I'm doing as a freelancer, as an illustrator for my Etsy shop, and then as an educator with my classes over on Skillshare. All right, so when it comes to like releases, I did launches every month on Skillshare, and I did one video a month. That worked really, really well for me, and that's something that I'm consistently going to bring over into the new year. But for right now, I want to look at things from like a sustainability kind of perspective. And when I say that, I'm like, can I personally sustain this without hurting myself, without not sleeping, without going for, working for 2 years without a break or a vacation. So I really want to look at what can I personally sustain. And right now I know one class a month works. And then for creative marketing and Etsy last year, I didn't know any better. I was trying to release a new product launch like every single week. I managed for quite a while. I managed to do that, and then things started getting busier and hectic, and there were some months where I couldn't release a new product every single week, and I realize now that wasn't sustainable. So yeah, now I want to look at what didn't work. So like I said, I couldn't create a new product every single month for Creative Market and Etsy, and also I was trying to create like new products every single month, and then they were often different for Creative Market, they were different for Etsy, and now I'm realizing that I can kind of recycle these ideas and then put them on, like if I'm drawing elements for a sticker pack, a physical sticker pack on Etsy, I can reuse those elements for maybe a printable or some sort of like digital version of those stickers for digital planners that I can put up on Creative Market. Or I can take those elements and then create a repeat pattern and then upload that to Spoonflower or put it on Redbubble. And now I'm gonna look at like, okay, well, what can I do instead of trying to do something every single week? Again, is it sustainable for me? It wasn't back then, so I know it's not going to be moving forward, so I need to be strategic and smart about it. I'm going to revise my product launches, and I'm only going to do 2 a month, and those will both be related to the same kind of concepts that will go on both Creative Market and Etsy, and then I'll be able to reuse that stuff for things like print-on-demand sites. I didn't launch enamel pins. That was one of my big goals last year, but what I did manage to do is actually launch washi tapes, and I documented that whole process on a video here on YouTube, and I did a tutorial on how to like work with Alibaba manufacturers and how to create a repeat pattern and design your own washi tape. And I took you through the whole process because that's part of the goal for this channel, to create transparency. While I didn't launch those enamel pins because of the cost, I did manage to find something that fit within my budget, and that was launching those washi tapes. And in turn, I got a really, really successful video out of that whole process here on YouTube. It's one of my higher viewed videos. I think it's over 1,000 views, which it may not seem like a lot to some people, but for me, like a smaller creator, that is a really great video for my channel. As I mentioned earlier, when I was talking about client work and the change in the world because of the pandemic, it was really interesting. Towards the middle of the year, I kind of backed away from client work. I think I was getting burned out. So with client work, it can be really tricky. Like, I've had some fantastic clients, don't get me wrong. I've had amazing clients, but there's a lot of upfront work that goes into procuring clients that you don't always necessarily get paid for. Creating a contract, creating a pitch, creating deadlines and timelines, and putting all of that into a project management tool before someone even signs a contract or puts a deposit down could be a lot. So I was kind of like contemplating, like, what can I do to kind of benefit? Because there had been times where someone was gonna sign a contract, they said they were all gung-ho, and then ghost me, or they would say that they were going to do something and then they needed to get me the contract by, the Monday of the start week. And then I'd get an email like I'd be ignored on Monday and then get an email on Tuesday saying, oh, I decided to move elsewhere. It was tricky. Like I felt like I was kind of like thrown all over the place with client work last year. And mind you, I've been a freelancer doing client work even when I was working full-time since 2008. I have had freelance clients from the point that I graduated from my undergrad, during grad school, while I was working in the corporate world, while I was teaching at like 4 different schools full-time. So like I've been in the rat race for client work, and I'm kind of just like I felt tired. I felt burned out. So I kind of took a step back, and it was at a pivotal time too, because like more and more people were being impacted by the pandemic. People were losing jobs. So I was like, I was worried too. So I was like, what can I do to pivot? And that's when, again, I was really focusing on pushing my product launches, focusing on really promoting my Skillshare classes so I could pull those revenue streams to kind of offset what was going on with my client kind of workload. And it ended up actually benefiting me to do that, because I wasn't reliant on, a company or a person that could have been impacted by something like the pandemic. And I also didn't have to deal with kind of like the headache that I was enduring this past year when it came to like flaky clients. For this upcoming year, I'm thinking that I'm not going to focus on small business clients this year. Or people looking to kind of like outsource third-party projects to anymore. The only kind of client work, quote unquote, that I'll focus on is if I'm going to do licensing with a major brand, or if I'm going to do any type of brand collaboration for my channel, or for my artwork in of itself, whether it be on social media or, like I said, licensing or creating work for a brand. A lot of the freelance work that I would do in the past was graphic design related, branding, website design, and social media marketing. So creating marketing plans, launch guides. And I did that for many years and I loved it, but what I find that I'm most passionate about is the design element when it comes to stuff like graphic design and designing stationery and media and things like that, and then the illustration part, and I want to do more of that artwork. So it made sense for me to back off from the client work. And then the other thing that I experimented with but didn't quite work out for me was Patreon. So I launched my Patreon like 3 or 4 months ago, and I had originally launched it like quietly just to kind of get it all set up like last year, and I didn't quite know what I wanted to do with it, and then I publicly launched it like 4 months ago, and I found that it wasn't sustainable in terms of like the amount of work and input I needed to give to it and then the return on it. So it would make sense if like I had a ton of followers and there were a ton of people doing like a $1 or $5 kind of donation thing where I didn't necessarily have to put additional content up. And it was basically, I added on 2 additional videos a month so that I had exclusives just for Patreon. I was designing products in advance that would go in my shop, but that I would send early to my patrons. And it just, when I looked at the cost benefit, it just didn't make sense and it wasn't sustainable for me. I had to remove something in order to make room for, something else, something grander, bigger in the future for whatever it is the universe has for me. So that didn't work out, but that's okay. I learned a lot of lessons in terms of how to like figure out subscriptions and figure out like shipping out products and coming up with like fun like pen pal concepts. I like a lot of the stuff that I put together for that. I could apply that and like release like boxes and things like that over on Etsy. But that's something that I want, it's like down the road. So what I think was really interesting is looking at YouTube. I love the fact that you can go into YouTube Studio and kind of like look through and figure out what worked really well in terms of video and content. And I kind of did that because I wanted to plan out like what is my content for this upcoming year. So I found that like my Plan With Me video, and I only did one, was one of my top videos. And so I'm planning on doing more Plan With Me's in the coming year and utilizing my own product to showcase in those Plan With Me's and how I use like my stickers and my functional stickers and creative graphic stickers in my planner spreads and things like that. And then tutorials like were huge for me. So some of my bigger ones were like how to export digital stickers, anything that related to digital planning, how to digital plan with GoodNotes, how to digitally scrapbook, anything related to my iPads. All of those videos were some of my most viewed this whole entire year. Some of them had over 2,800 views, and that's a lot for me. So it's really interesting to see what worked when it comes to videos. But what didn't work were the vlogs, unfortunately. And again, vlogs are like, I feel like they're hit or miss. It could be personality. It could be maybe people like to watch me teach stuff more than they like to watch me do my daily like creative business life stuff. So what I'm thinking for the new year is that I'm going to focus more on tutorials, but I'm not going to take away the vlogs completely, but I think I'm only going to do one vlog a month. I think I'm going to do 3 tutorials and then just one vlog a month, and then I may not film the whole entire month. It may just be like, oh, I know I'm going to have a busy week, or I'm working on something really interesting, or maybe in the future when we can go places again, maybe I'm going somewhere interesting, and I'll make sure to film that kind of stuff so that it's a little bit more interesting than just me sitting in my studio like I do every single day, which I think is maybe that's why it's a little boring, but I don't know. I just think it's interesting too, because I feel like it's beneficial to connect with you all in this way, and kind of this showcases my personality. So it's like you can come to my channel, you can learn from me, but it's also important to kind of understand me and know me, and I feel like this is a way to kind of build that relationship, digitally. So I'm still going to do vlogs, I'm just not going to do as many. Alright, so now what I want to look at are my work goals and then my personal goals for the year. So work goals, I for sure need to update my website this year. That's actually something I'm going to be working on this whole week. I'm going to be working on revamping my branding, updating my illustrated, little icon, updating my website, and then I really want to adjust my work hours and work productivity goals for this year. Like I said, I'm coming back from a break, like my first break in 2 years. 2 years. Like, I don't take time off. When you're a small business owner, like, you freak out, you worry, if you don't work, you're not gonna make money. I'm finally at a point where I'm starting to see residual income come in so I can work and actually make money. So I think the biggest part, aside from what I'm going to do with my personal goals when it comes to stuff like health, is really focusing on what can I do to balance things for this year work-wise. So I want to do a 4-day work week. If people in Europe can do it and make it work, I'm going to make it work for myself because I'm my own boss. So I'm going to work Monday through Thursday, and I'm going to utilize Fridays as my fun Fridays, which will involve art, productivity, and stuff that I could do with my kids, and then professional development. So even though I'm not working on work, I'm working on myself on Fridays. So, and then I'm going to stick to my work hours. I usually clock in between 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. in the morning because I tend to help get the kids situated in the morning. Some mornings I have to do homeschool work with my youngest, so sometimes I might start work later. But I'm going to stick to work hours between 9 or 10 to 4 p.m., 5 p.m. at the latest, but preferably I am done by 4. So I think sticking to work hours will be vital. I did not stick to work hours this past 2 years. I would work late into the night. I would work on the weekends, and it wasn't healthy and it isn't sustainable. I got sick a lot. I gained a bunch of weight. And I just want to focus on like what can I do to balance it all out. And like I said, we're going to do Fun Fridays, which basically are going to be my day to take Skillshare classes for professional development, days for me to do art, illustration, drawing, painting, and then days for adventure. So if, maybe my kids have a Friday off, or I'm going to have them have a half day at school, and then we can go to a museum. So that's basically my hope for Fridays in the new year. So when I'm looking at work and career and stuff like that, I really had to ask myself this year, what do I really want to do? And my big thing was I really want to work less, but but earn more. And I think a way to do that obviously is through these, revenue streams and residual income. I also want to focus on creating more art. I want to do more drawing. I want to do more illustration-based work. And I can do that for myself in terms of my products, but then when it comes to clients, that's the only kind of client work that I want to take on moving forward. I also want to really hunker down and finalize my book concept and get to a point where I can start pitching. So I talked about this last year. I wanted to launch an illustrated children's book. I have this idea. And I have the base of the concept done. I want to start creating characters for it, designing the settings, illustrating, finalizing the whole script, or finalizing the text of the book. So that is my big goal this year, is to really get that done. When it comes to residual income, another big hope that I have really is to monetize YouTube. So I'm almost there. I've got the number of subscribers that you need to have, and now it's just a matter of getting my watch hours. I'm about almost half. I just want to balance it out better so that I'm not working 80 plus hour work weeks. Because it's not healthy and it's not beneficial, because it takes a lot. It's a lot of work, and I think sometimes people don't realize that. People watch these videos and they gain a lot of information from it, and we come from a society now that expects things like this for free, and it takes a lot of time, effort, and energy to work on these kinds of things. So I think being able to earn even, a small amount in terms of ad revenue is something that can offset and help creators like me, especially small creators like me, maintain and sustain doing things like this for the viewers. So that's just something to think about. And now I want to talk about personal goals. I've been doing really good in trying to work out multiple days a week, and I find that it's really beneficial, and it kind of gets me up and it gets me going. I'm kind of already, I'm tired all the time right now, so I think my body is just trying to adjust and reset. So hopefully I will be able to maintain that this year. I think that'll be a huge difference in my health if I can. I used to work out constantly, but like I said, I got hurt and things kind of fell to the wayside, especially because I deal with chronic pain in my leg from my injury anyways. I also want to meditate daily, so hopefully a 5-minute meditation every day. Hopefully I could do it first thing in the morning. If not, then my goal is to do it before bed. And with that meditation is also journaling. So I have this little journal here where it's not a lot. It's very short, and every night before bed, or if I meditate in the morning, I'll do this right after. If I meditate at night, I'll do this before I go to bed. So just something that deals with gratitude, journaling, sharing my feelings, emotions, a positive coping outlet. And then I started therapy back in November. That was my birthday present to myself. I purchased a subscription to BetterHelp.com because my insurance does not cover mental health services. Come on, United States, let's get our shit together, please, and let's put a focus on this. But I'm one of the many Americans that deals with mental health struggles like anxiety and depression. I dealt with it a lot as a kid. I managed it relatively well as an adult, and I think part of it was because I would working out, running was my coping skill, and then I lost that coping skill after I got hurt, and I spiraled. So I struggled a lot. The last 2 years, and even more so during this pandemic, and I finally just said, you know what? I bit the bullet, and I was like, I'm going to find a way to do this. I was watching Anna Akana on YouTube. She had a coupon code, and I was like, let's look at BetterHelp. And I found an amazing Boricua, Puerto Rican therapist who's just a dream come true, and she understands, and it's just, honestly, I should have done it sooner. So I'm not going to cry. Stop. Therapy has been a huge milestone, again, because of things like Skillshare and this residual income that I'm able to have. I'm able to invest in things like this to help my mental health. So thank you guys. Thank you for watching my classes. You're able to get me therapy. And therapy is just another focus of self-help, like putting myself first. And I'm a mom and I never do that, and it's scary, but it's important and it's necessary, because I cannot keep giving to the world and giving to my family and filling everyone else's cup up when mine is empty. And this is a really good way for me to take care of myself. So I'm gonna maintain therapy every week. It's not super expensive, but it is a big chunk of income every month. Instead of buying a new car, because I haven't had a vehicle in a few years, instead of buying a car, I'm kind of investing part of what could cover like the cost of a car to cover the cost of a subscription for therapy. And it's hopefully I can maintain it, and hopefully I can sustain it. So yeah, I highly recommend it. If you can't get therapy through your own insurance, maybe your insurance doesn't cover it, maybe you're on Medicare, maybe you're on Medicaid, check out BetterHelp. They have some really great resources, and they have like scholarships based on like self-proclaimed income that could help cut costs for you. So I would highly suggest therapy, especially if you're someone who struggles with mental health. And then the other, like, really simple, but like, and you think that I do it because I have a water bottle in my videos all the time, but drinking at least 4 water bottles per day. And then my last thing is just weekly professional development. So Fun Fridays, that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be taking Skillshare classes, art classes, doing things that, fulfill me, inspire me, and allow me to, tap into my creativity. So now that we went over kind of like my goals for the year, personal, career, work kind of stuff, basically I want to kind of outline some of my thoughts on how I go about outlining my content. So now that I have an idea of like how many times, what the frequency is, how many times a week or a month I'm going to be publishing a class, uploading to YouTube, launching a new product on Etsy or Creative Market. Now that I know what that frequency is and what the different platforms are, then I can kind of plan out the content that I need. So I utilize just like a notebook with all of my ideas. So basically I had to kind of plan out and map out my thoughts for the upcoming year in terms of content. I find that when I have at least some sort of semblance of guidance, it makes it easier for me to create. So if I know what my video concept is, it's going to make it easier for me to create a treatment around that, or film B-roll and get the clips and the talking head. I find that if I know what the concept that I want to launch for a product on Creative Market or Etsy, if I know what that is, it makes it easier for me to like design from that or illustrate from that. So basically I mapped out this whole entire year, and with that being said, I'm still going to be flexible with myself, and if something doesn't work, or if I'm not jiving with it, or if it doesn't inspire me, I'm going to skip it or change it, and just be open to being flexible with this. But I found that I know I need 12 classes for Skillshare. I need 30-something videos, like 36 videos for YouTube. And then I need 12 vlogs. And then I need 24 products for Etsy and Creative Market. So I have that number in my head, and then I can just start listing out. You think of like Inktober, you get prompts. That's basically what I'm doing. I'm creating my own prompts for what I'm going to illustrate for the type of product that I'm making each month. Because again, if I know what I'm doing, it makes it easier for me versus me like, oh, I have to launch this product next Monday. What am I going to do? Here it is Friday. I need to illustrate and cut some stickers and photograph them. Which I did some of that last year because at first I didn't know any better. And then as I went through it, it made sense. I was like, oh, I have to plan ahead. And I just list that out in Trello and then give myself deadlines of when that's going to go up. And I kind of like spread things out so that, again, it's sustainable and it's not overwhelming for me like it was this past year. Once I did everything on Trello, then I'm gonna basically go pop into Google Calendar and start adding my deadlines in for all of the elements on my Trello, because even though I have Trello on my phone, Google Calendar syncs up with my iCalendar and I can keep track of my dates much easier on my iPhone like that. And then I'm done for the year. I only plan about 2 to 3 months max at a time in Google Calendar, because anything more than that, it becomes really overwhelming. So I tend to update my Google Calendar quarterly. So I'll do 3 months at a time over 4 quarters in the year, and that gives me that whole entire year. So for right now, I did January, February, March, and then in March I'll do April, May, and June, and then so on and so forth, and it just makes it easier. And if you're interested in more of that kind of thing, I have a way more in-depth video that I can share. I'll put in the cards up here. It has, or up here, somewhere up there, and it has how I use Trello and Google Calendar for productivity, and hopefully that'll take you through this whole process in more detail. But I just wanted to highlight, I still do the same thing every year. I find that it works for me. Other people like to hop from productivity tool to productivity tool. I find Trello works just fine. Google Calendar works perfect for me, and I don't like change, so I'm sticking to it. All right, guys, I know this was long. I hope you found it interesting to kind of like walk through with me my 2020 recap, and then look at my plans and hopes for the upcoming year. Like I said, I'm going to be graceful and be flexible, because we're still in a pandemic and things are still a little crazy here in the US, and sometimes things may work according to plan, but I find that more often than not they don't. And I have to be open to allowing flow and allowing change and pivoting as I need to. And that's going to be my big focus this year, is just, being inspired and pivoting as needed, and most importantly, being flexible and kind to myself and those around me. I hope that this video inspired you to kind of get your stuff together for this year, and I will see you in the next one. Make sure, if you like the content that you saw today, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Take care. Thanks for watching. Bye.